But hold that thought. Keep the prayers going. Let's go and talk to our next guest of the afternoon. We've got with us Brother Hanif Khan, who is again no stranger to the studio. He is a former compadre behind the mic. Good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be on you, Brother Hanif.
Wa alaikum assalam, brothers. It's nice to hear your voices.
Before you say anything, I suppose it's bittersweet. The first thing, me and Raza, the second I saw Raza, I said that I woke up in the morning and the first thing I typed in was Hanif Khan.
Yeah.
And so my commiserations, because it was so close. It was so close.
Yeah.
And God willing, next time. God willing, next time.
Yeah. I mean, like I said to you, both, when I got this seat, I said you guys have been on a journey with me.
Honestly, it's the first thing, Brother Raza said. He goes, that's the first thing. That's the only thing I looked at either as well. But massive congratulations. As much as me and you and Brother Raza, we've had our discussions on Labour, Conservatives and whatnot. But as I said, in accordance with the teachings of Islam,
no doubt.
In accordance with the teachings of Islam, a democratic vote has happened and Labour and your party has won a landslide. So, it would be wrong not to congratulate Labour and the Prime Minister and your party on winning.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, it is a great honour to be finally in a party that is in power, running this country, which has been wounded for a long time now. You have a population that's ill and is being demonized, or was being demonized for being ill and not being back at work, and not actually understanding what has happened to the country. And I think it's very clear the country has replied back with, as a democratic process, that we want change and hope back. People, I remember growing up, I think you do as well, to buy a house, as long as you could raise 3 times your salary as a deposit, you pretty much guaranteed could buy a house. But that aspiration will never be a reality for anybody now, today, unless we don't make the change.
Hanif, how difficult is it going to be for Sir Keir Starmer to navigate?
God.
Considering his speech, and me and Brother Azhar, I really liked his acceptance speech. It wasn't over-promising, and it was like he was looking to, reaching out to people who didn't vote for him. Words are always, fantastic. Yeah, words, but unfortunately, the flip side is words are cheap as well, because implementation is always, the challenge. So, how difficult do you think is it going to be for Labour Party and its leader and the Prime Minister?
Yeah, no, point taken, and that was one of the reasons why the manifesto itself wasn't like there was no rabbit in the hat.
Yeah.
Pulled out. It was what you would have already expected from what we had been announcing beforehand, and the manifesto didn't say anything outlandish to scare people, but to actually stay, as we promised, within the fiscal policy. Saying that, we do not know what the state of the finances are once we get in there and Rachel Reeves has a look at them. But this budget has always been a growth, because without any sort of growth, the promises that any party would have had to have made were not going to be fulfilled. So that's one challenge. The other challenge is when you have a large majority, what you do with all these fantastically elected individuals, how do you manage that? That brings itself another set of problems. It's a nice problem to have, because everybody will be vying for this opportunity, that opportunity, asking for demands for their areas, because they're going to get to their areas and realise, where has this levelling up been? It's been non-existent. So I demand this, I want this from the Prime Minister, that from the Prime Minister. Will he be able to deliver? Because many people would have been elected on change and reinvestment. So you're right, it is a really big challenge. Now, I think, go ahead.
Before I hand over to Brother Raza, because I know he's got loads of questions in his mind as well, I just got one question.
Yeah.
The outgoing government has left this country divided, in a massive way. Keir Starmer talks about building nations. Nations cannot be built on divisions. How are those divisions going to go away? What does Labour need to do to bring everyone on board?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because the frightening thing for me is the rise of the right wing, which not only did it divide the previous government that is now lost, that it was that internal battle that brought them down, and it showed how strong it was. So Keir Starmer needs to address those people who feel as if this country has been taken over by groups of people that actually they don't understand. And I think people like you and me who were born here, maybe were our parents are from another country, we lived here, we've had families here, our children have grown up. You know, I'm on fourth generation in my family.
Same.
Yeah. So who are they? Who else can they be other than English and British? So those values is number one. We need to bring the country together to say how wonderful and great this country has been forever, and look at everything it's achieved around the world and where it colonized people and that's where the natural home was. So for people to say that, oh, you're not British, you're not English, which means you don't have blue eyes and fair skin, we need to first, one of the priorities needs to tackle that. And how do we do that? Is showing love, caring, and making a difference in people, and giving them hope, and giving them the feeling that, you know, I can achieve something. It's a long journey. It has to start somewhere. Three things need to happen instantly. We need to look after our youth. We need to give our youth and our children the aspirations that there is a future for them. Then those people who are in work, we need to give them the opportunity to stay healthy, fit, and be able to let them earn money, put money in their pocket, and let that money go further. How do we make that money go further? We need to invest in our public services. We need to give them, security for long term, and we need to give stability, not chaos. And the third thing is our elderly people who are worried about the NHS. We need to tell them we'll invest in NHS, we'll lower the waiting list. Our incredible high of nearly 7-8 million people waiting for an appointment. If we can bring that down, the NHS can start becoming a bit more manageable. They're the top three. And obviously, it's a mountain of work. But yeah, I mean, that's what I think is the best way, bringing our community together, showing true leadership, and actually listening. And the first thing we can do is grab the low-hanging fruit and deliver on something. At least if it's something we can deliver on, people can see that we're in the right direction.
Hanif, assalamu alaikum to you, peace upon you. And again, so I'll start off with the same thing. The first thing that I thought about this morning, I believe I called you as well, but I believe the lines were a bit busy.
I've been asleep, actually been up all night.
I didn't call you because I knew if I were to call you, I didn't want to hear any abuse, and I knew Raza wouldn't get the abuse, and I would.
No, Hanif's nice. Hanif would never do that. In the nicest way possible.
Hanif knows what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
I think it comes back to the same question over and over again. Well, I was just reading up a little bit on what our first female Chancellor of the Exchequer, Rachel Reeves, has said. There's not a huge amount of money in what the previous government has left. Are we going to? How much are we going to hear? Oh, this is what we inherited, because usually in the first couple of weeks, this honeymoon period, the first couple of weeks that the new government takes over, it's always about this blame game. This is what we inherited. There's not much we can do, but I mean, Labour had 14 years to prepare for this, didn't they?
But if I may, Hanif, based on what Brother Raza said, do people have the patience to wait and allow Labour to kind of embed and to start making changes, if possible?
Yeah, no, that's why I talked about the low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Even if it's just one big thing that we do we give Ofwat, which is the regulator for our sewage in our companies, does the policy give them teeth so they can go after the water companies that have polluted our rivers, or do they nationalise some of our services which have been decimated? Our police have decimated. So they need to decide which one of those which we can deliver quickly and do it right away.
Because people are going to look for some kind of immediate change.
Yeah, they are. And this is what Sir Keir would be doing, seeing what's the biggest thing that we can deliver straight away. The other thing is about when you listen to Keir Starmer's speech, he didn't once utter the blame game at that moment.
Yeah.
Very, very trying to bring the community together. Because, if you're going to take a hit for something for the benefit of others, you need to know that there's going to be something in there for you in the long term. And I think that's the way to do it, really, because we can't expect everybody to just have everything automatically. So there are some people that might be willing to pay additional taxes for better, improved public services. And when we compare ourselves to our European counterparts like Holland and the Netherlands, how much tax they pay, but you go there, everything just works. Services are great. You get a doctor's appointment there. You can even find a dentist. You don't have to travel so many miles away. So there are many issues. Now, this thing about money and growth, we are in this horrendous debt. There's not much maneuverability. So it's going to be a real big challenge. But what we will do is, in terms of our taxes that we committed to, is there will be nothing new that you're not expected. And we'll claw some of that back, as you know, through the windfall tax, the non-dom status, the money that you get from the privatised schools, and we'll go after the people who have not paid their taxes, like the PPE contracts. So that work will start straight away. Then hopefully when we get some stability, we may get some internal investment from the private sector. That's the only way we're going to be able to do anything we want to do. The private sector has a responsibility to help the government deliver on its ambitions. So I think that balance will be key.
Liz Truss, Penny Mordaunt, Jacob Rees-Mogg, names that we've heard and seen like everywhere. These were the people who they
were supposed to be the next prime minister, the next leader.
I mean, very famous, very well-established politicians within their party all lost their seats. What message does that send to the Conservatives, and what pressure does that put on Labour to deliver?
Yeah. It's a big thing, because we had to go through the same thing, didn't we?
Yeah.
In 2019, where Keir Starmer had to look at the party and then turn itself around and make that change. It was hurtful. There were many wounds, and I think the party cut quite deeply. And as a result, we've seen situations with Jeremy Corbyn, who won his seat in North London with a larger majority.
24,000 votes, man.
Yeah. So these are the fallouts. These are the damage to our party. We've lost some amazing people. But I think the Tory party is a bit different in that it not only does it need to look at itself, it actually needs to deal with its own internal politics in a way that, do they want to be taken over by Nigel Farage? Do they want to be a right-wing protest party? Or do they really want to be a government in opposition that can actually keep the Labour Party in check? That's the first thing they need to do, is solve that problem. They had it in 2014 when Nigel Farage was in UKIP, and it was like, at that time, it was a one-trick pony. At that time, it disappeared. But I don't see reform going away. After listening to Nigel Farage's press conference, although they've got 4 MPs, he now wants to make it into a proper procedural, not just have a contract and a business, but actually a party.
Yeah.
That's their first thing.
And that's dangerous.
It is. I don't like it. I want them to be gone. I want the Tory party to become where it traditionally in the centre-right, and actually go there and eradicate the right. I mean, when they talked about holding Keir Starmer accountable for the Muslim vote and for the anti-Semitism, they never even asked the Tory party, because they knew what they were. There was no hope for them to actually attract them to these things.
Okay. One question I got to ask, it's the elephant in the room. I asked Chris Shaw as well when I guessed. Me and you, we've had our debates on this, and less about policy, more about the Gaza issue, more about the stance. Do you think Keir Starmer has noticed the losses, the independents, and 2 shadow, cabinet members lost their seats? Has Keir Starmer noticed this, and will he be looking to address this in a manner that that needs to be addressed?
Yeah. So you're asking me questions as if I've got a beeline to Keir Starmer.
From my point of view, you're Labour. when I talk to Hanif, I'm talking to the Labour Party.
But there are people like Angela Rayner who has stayed as the deputy leader, and she's got 3 very important roles in terms of housing and levelling up, etc. Now, this thing about Gaza, this thing about the Muslim vote, I can tell you on my campaign, there were many people who did not want to vote Labour. And these weren't Muslims, although many of them were. These are normal people who could not vote for Labour anymore because of the Gaza situation, our stance. And there were a few others as well. There were some other stances. But I said to them, look at me, look at my situation. This is what I believe. This is how I felt on the 7th, the 11th. And they kind of understood it. And I explained to them, you've got to be in it to help make the change.
Yep.
Without being on the outside, you can't do anything. So my answer to yes, I think so. Why not? Because if you look at John Ashford, I mean, that to me was the biggest shock. And he was.
He was. Hanif, stay on the line. We've got a caller who's come in and wants to ask questions. So I want to keep you on the line as well. And jump in anytime you want. We've got with us Brother Faraz Ahmed, who's on the line. Good afternoon, welcome. Assalamu alaikum, peace be on you, Faraz.
Wa alaikum salam.
How can we assist? What would you like to share in respect to your opinion?
Well, I just heard your debate about the election.
Mm-hmm.
I was at the BBC Broadcasting House yesterday when the exit poll was released.
Okay.
I thought I'd just give my impressions of what I thought the public's reactions were.
Sure.
I was there, and to be honest, there was a lot of happiness and cheerfulness amongst the people that were gathered there. Although I'm not sure how representative they were of the general electorate. But still, it's clear that there was clear anger and discontent towards the Conservative Party, and I think people recognise that it's now a time for change. So I think now Labour have a great opportunity. They have a great advantage now in the fact that they have such a supermajority. So I hope they take this advantage to really drive some real change and reform.
What would you like changed?
Well, I'm a law student, and for me personally, any sort of funding within the legal system, there is certainly some gaps there and shortages there, which I hope Keir Starmer, bringing his experience as a former director of public prosecution, should be able to recognise. And I think it's a bit of a quick fix there in that sense. I'm not expecting miracles. I understand that the economy is not in a good way, and there is no magic money tree. But still, I think Keir Starmer really should find the money to fund these essential public services.
What do you make out of statements afterwards, for example, like Suella, who said, "I'm sorry that my party didn't listen to you. The Conservative Party has let you down. You, great British people, voted for us over the last 14 years and we did not keep our promises. We've acted as if we were entitled to your vote regardless of what we did and didn't do, and we need to learn our lesson." Does that do anything positive? Does that change anything once the election is lost?
Well, I think it's nice to see an acknowledgement of it at the end, but it's a little bit too little, too late, I think. And certainly I think the Conservatives need a bit of time away to regroup and find themselves again and find their identity as a party. At the end of the day, ironically, the thing that you can do in politics to keep yourself popular is stay out of power. And 14 years for any government is going to create fatigue for any government. And I think the Conservatives are feeling the effect of that.
Faraz, are you optimistic about the future?
I am, yes. I think we have to be. I think my religion teachers need to be optimistic as well. And of course, I will endeavour to remain optimistic, because that's also good to the economy as well. When everyone's optimistic, confidence is increased, and that helps everyone.
Indeed. Lastly, Faraz, as far as your generation is concerned, what's the feel? I mean, what are they saying? Have they, as far as Keir's opening speech is concerned, this rebuilding of the trust in politics in general, or the political, or the government, not just government, but politics in general,
and serving the country,
is that reflected in the thoughts and the beliefs of your generation?
I think definitely there's been a diminishing in recent years. I think anyone of any political leaning would have to generally agree that there's been a diminishing of the standards of common decency and integrity that we've been used to in British politics for some time. So I think a revert to that would be very much appreciated. As for your point about students themselves, I think, feel that neither main political party at the minute, reflects any of their interests. So I think it's in their interest as well to sort of focus on students, because they are the future of this country.
Indeed.
Without a doubt.
Ras, lovely talking to you. Thank you so much for your time, brother.
Thank you.
You know, exactly what Faraz just said reminds me of that famous saying of the second caliph of the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, Hazrat Mirza Bashiruddin Mahmud Ahmad, about the youth.
Yeah. You cannot reform a nation without reforming its youth. And I believe this is where we've come to now. You have basically not taken care of that generation. The only thing that you have to look at is the number of people who are suffering, not just in the school systems or not. Breakfast in the morning, knife crime, which is a huge issue here, not just here in London.
No.
And it's not just staying with knife crime anymore. No. We're talking about guns. We're talking about
drive-by
shootings and violence, which is unbelievably.
It's funny you say that. Actually, my car was robbed. Well, not my car. The belongings inside my car were robbed literally on Monday. And
there's nothing you can do about it.
There's literally nothing you can do.
Nothing.
They're like, they ask you what's happened. Okay, here's your case number, and that's it. There's no update. There's nothing. You call them again and again. You ask them, and there's no progress.
Brother Hanif, you're still with us. What's
I am.
A very relevant point I think Raza makes about crime and fear. There is a fear in society which is restricting people in doing what they want to do and to live kind of freely as they want to.
I'm telling you, a couple of years ago, I would not have thought of the places that you can go or not go, the times that you can go or not go.
No-go zones.
And also, because if you are a parent,
yes,
if you have children who are in those developing stages, I yesterday, for the first time probably, because again, I came across a report, I came across some news, and you're thinking about the next 10, 12, 15 years and how you can protect your children from the society that they live in, from the friends group, from the places that you live. All of these thoughts, which are completely natural for a young parent, which you never thought about before. So, Hanif, does that change anything? Labour being in power, does that change anything when we talk about London, for example?
Who's in charge? Who's in charge? Who's going to be the cabinet person for law and order?
It's Shabana Mahmood, I think.
Justice
or
Secretary.
Yvette Cooper, Home Secretary. So between the two, there's quite a lot of mix them again. But anyway, look, you make the point perfect, because that was whips on the doorstep. It's about this annoying little niggly antisocial behaviour, crimes where people say, it's just a bit, it won't matter so much. But it amounts to so much in your daily life for many people. I'll give you one quick win that we will do is if you have these little gangs that raid shops and they steal less than £200, there is no policeman or police officer that will go after them because there's a limit of £200.
That's right.
So they could come back as many times as they wanted to raid the same shop, but as long as they stole less than £200, they will not be pursued. So that's the first. That's one of the things that Yvette Cooper will change the law on straight away. So at least there is some sort of protection for shopkeepers and the abuse that they receive, both large ones and small ones, and give teeth to a lot of our organisations that haven't had the teeth, meaning to actually go out there and prosecute people like Ofwat, and also what's the one that does the schools? Is it
Ofsted?
Yeah, Ofsted, get rid of these one word that define the way the school is.
But is the money there for that to happen?
Is there what?
The money there for this to happen?
Yeah,
this goes back to what Raza said earlier, that I'm not going to say there isn't any truth in it when new governments come in and new governments are formed and they say, look, we don't have the finances. But how long? Because there is a truth in that the finances are restricted.
Yeah.
But for how long?
The big difference you're going to get now is as soon as you get some stability, the mandate is there. There will be steering of the ship and calming of the rivers, And as soon as you get that, people around the country will feel better. They'll get jobs that are for long term, not hire and fire. You get the private investment that companies are looking for in the government that will invest massively. So, for example, simple thing like wind farms and solar panels, and they go for like 20 years, 30 years programs. So at least you know that if a private organisation wants to invest, is their money is going to be there and safe. Prior to that, that probably wasn't there. And also, when you look at the NHS, we know now once we get a waiting list down, having 40,000 appointments a week is about 2 million a year, and over a course of the Parliament will reduce it. So that will cost money. Education will cost money. But if we can do it in tandem with private businesses temporarily to invest in some of our big infrastructure projects, so they're called NIPs, National Infrastructure Projects, and with working with private organisations. But before that, they weren't interested because they didn't know what's going on. And also, what you will find, if some company comes in thinking, right, I'm going to probably make some money out of this, it won't be. It'll say, what can you do for the country first? Because that's one thing that Keir has been very close about. We need to bring politics back into the service of its country first, then politics. If you listen to Suella Braverman, she's saying we need to go back to our party first, then the country. That is what we've been used to, but this is where Keir Starmer will change and put our country first, put our politicians in the service of our nation. It's going to be hard, but with the will of the people and the hope, there's things you can change so much and so drastically that investment will flow into this country with stability. And obviously having good relationships with our biggest, strongest neighbours in the EU, try and fix that problem that's been broken. So, businesses struggle so much with having to work with our European partners, the time it takes to get goods delivered or goods exported. It just takes so long. We get rid of some of that red tape, it would help. And therefore, the cost of things, our farmers are struggling. I learnt this when I was in Sleaford and North Hykeham. The highest number of people who commit suicide are farmers.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
So, Hanif, to remove that red tape for those of our listeners who are not aware of this whole process.
Yeah.
Now, with the numbers that you have, with the seats that you have, compared to before and the previous government, how easy or how difficult, how long does that take in real time?
Yeah. I mean, if you think what Rishi Sunak was able to achieve when he was Prime Minister with Northern Ireland and the challenge it had with the Windsor Agreement, I think it was called. You might need to correct me.
That's right, yeah, it is.
He did it quite quickly, right? Yeah. And therefore, for what's been going on in background with the Labour Party, we've known for a long time now that we probably will win this election. We've put ourselves onto a footing. So in the background, many of the shadow ministers and their staff have been working very closely with the European Union. So hopefully something may come of it. I can only be optimistic. But a lot of people voted to leave the European Union, but they didn't leave to be worse off. They left for various reasons, but one thing they didn't leave for is to have less in their pocket. Now, as we try and align ourselves better, we may want to do a deal with Norway or Canada kind of relationship, or our deals, our negotiating deals, needs to be better. It'll be easier to do in Europe, even a simple thing. So if we just take our agricultural policy with the EU, if we could fix that one, that will give us a lot of food security. It will give us export and import of our meat and good quality standards. That's an easier one to do. Still things like that. So it is difficult. We need to watch this space and see how it all unravels.
You say watch this space. How long are we supposed to watch this space before we start asking questions?
I know you can ask questions whenever you want.
Who can stop you? Who can stop you?
I'm talking from a political perspective. Let's not take this let's not take it off the tangent here. We're talking. How long does Labour need?
Right. So here's the thing. So right now, today, as you know, that of the most senior key positions right now, they've already been announced and appointed.
Yeah.
These ministers already have been taken to their departments and they've already started work. Now, each of them would have been given a brief and something to solve. And our civil servants would be there working tirelessly to try and achieve those ambitions. So that's kind of where we'll be and where we'll start. The mountain is so high, so huge, that every aspect you look in our society. I had a conversation with a teacher that was here in 2010, stayed here for a little while and went to New Zealand for 5 years, came back after 5 years, and was flabbergasted by the investment in the schools. Everything had just disappeared. Although the amount of work that the teachers were doing has increased, you can't fault the teachers like you can't fault the nurses and the doctors. The systems need to be fixed. And now we'll be listening and talking. Each one of those ministers, like Wes Streeting for the health minister, you've got Bridget Phillips for the education minister, you've got Yvette Cooper as the Home Secretary, and obviously we've got our first ever female Chancellor. They will all be listening and trying to solve the problems. So how quickly will it happen? It's like how long's a piece of string, right? But I'm hoping where we'll cut it will be in months as opposed to wait for years. That's my kind of thing.
Enough of the politics of it. What's your plan?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. What's next for you, man?
When you coming back to the studio?
The seat is empty.
The seat is empty.
I got nothing to do. I'm back next week.
Okay. Well, we look forward to joining you having a cup of coffee while we do the drive time.
Well. No, definitely I do.
Well, my message to Sir Keir Starmer. If he's listening, well,
give him a seat.
No,
forget
that. Well, until you give this man a seat, you talked about building bridges and with communities. This is the man that you need to be utilizing, Sir Keir Starmer, because it is these kind of people that we will build in communities and fulfilling the promises that you have made.
Party, that's we've seen it the little few years that I've known him.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a loss for Sleaford and North Hykeham. That's one thing that I can say, regardless of which party individuals belong to. But from a personal point of view, Hanif, well done to you. Congratulations, my friend.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always a next time, inshallah.
There's always a reason. There's always a reason.
There's always a reason.
Yeah, we know. Yes, we know. And everyone has been a learning curve, and you get better, more resilient, and stronger every time. Thank you, guys.
Cool. All right. Now, what you do is you go to SoundCloud, you take this clip, and you send it to Keir Starmer. Get the message to him. Have a fantastic weekend.
Take care, brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you very much. Bye.